Welcome to Traverse PC's web seminar on using COGO in Traverse PC. So we've got quite an agenda to get through here today, and we're going to start with some resources. So I want to make sure you're aware of the resources that are available to you from within the program. Let's start with the Learning Center. If I go to the Tasks Manager in Traverse PC, come down here to Member Area, click on it. This will bring you into the Traverse PC website. If you're already logged in on the website, it'll bring you straight into the Member Area, which I am logged in. You can see that over here. If I'm not logged in, it'll ask me to log in right over in this area. So you'll need to log in using your user account on the website. Now, once you're here, you've got a lot of resources available to you over here in the Member Area menu, including accessing your licenses and working on your account, that kind of stuff. But where we want to take a look is the Learning Center. If I click on this, this takes me to the Learning Center, and a lot of resources here, including the user forum, the quick start guide, accessing the workflows, learning guides, etc., etc. Right here is a tab for COGO. So if I click on COGO, I will get a short video that's a sneak peek, just something about COGO. And all of these tabs are set up this way, so I'll get a quick look at something. Now, if I want to go more in depth, I will go to the COGO Learning Center, and you have to be registered as a customer to be able to access this. When I go to the COGO Learning Center, now I've got a lot more stuff available. Down below this sneak peek video, we'll see different sections: introducing COGO, rotate and translate, intersect. I can expand whatever section I want to look at what is involved in whatever I'm looking for. All right, so this is the COGO Learning Center on the website that you reach via the Member Area. Keep that in mind. So you've got a lot of resources available to you out here in the Member Area. So you'll come to the Learning Center or to the Member Area to learn what to do or how to do it, those kind of things. So back to Traverse PC, we'll get started on COGO. There are a lot of COGO tools in Traverse PC. Most of them are available for any view. Some of them are restricted to specific views because of what they do or how they work. One of the primary things that most COGO tools have in common is that they will allow you to work on multiple objects. So, for example, if I choose right-of-way offsets, I have the ability to do right-of-way offsets for 27 selected traverses in the Traverses Manager, or 25 tag traverses, or one specific traverse. If I don't have on the list here what I want, I can always go select it. Oh, I want to select a few specific traverses. I would go over to the Traverses Manager, select whichever traverses I want to work on. Traverse PC automatically updates this. If you still don't see what you're looking for, you can click this refresh button that will refresh this list for you, and you can choose what you want to work on, whether it's points or traverses or drawings, you name it. You'll be able to work on whatever you want to, you need to work on. This what list is very important. Traverse PC will make assumptions based on how you got here or what you did last. It will make an assumption on what you want to work on. Because I just selected those 8 traverses, Traverse PC assumes that I want to work on that. But keep in mind, you need to pay attention to this because we don't always get that assumption right. Okay, I may have gone and selected those 8 traverses, but I want to work on this one specific traverse. All right. Always check your what list. Make sure you're acting on what you think you should be acting on. Down at the bottom of most COGO dialog boxes, you have other options available to you. For example, I want to do this, but I want to base it on a ground distance and a factor, or whatever. I want to do this in meters. Whatever I need to do here, you can hide or show the options down here to select those what you need. Now, when you bring up these COGO dialog boxes, it will typically remember the last thing that was used. All right, so it doesn't come up blanked out. It typically remembers the last thing you did. You can always come down and clear the dialog box so you can start completely over, or you can just modify the sections that you need to modify. So that's when I access these from the main desktop menu. Typically, if I open a COGO dialog box from a traverse view, for example, let's open this traverse. All right. So if I go to a COGO tool here from the traverse view, the dialog box will typically come up blank. All right, so it typically resets for that. Now that's in general. In addition, it sets the distance and direction type to what that traverse is set to. Now this traverse is in true bearing and ground distance, and when I brought this up, it automatically is showing me that we're on ground distance and true bearing. All right, now I can change that if I want to use this COGO tool differently than how my traverse is set. But Traverse PC will automatically set it for what your traverse is set to. So keep that in mind. You won't have to manually manage that unless you need to change it. Also, once again, in this case, Traverse PC has made an assumption that I want to work on this entire traverse. But once again, and the reason it made that assumption is because I got to it via the traverse view. If I had gone over here to, say, the drawing view and accessed the same dialog box, now it's looking at one selected item in that traverse, because this doesn't work on drawings, so it hasn't given me the drawing. If I choose a different one like Translate, now it thinks that I want to work on the entire drawing. All right, so it matters where you get to these from, and always check that you're acting on what you think you're acting on. All right, so Traverse PC will make those assumptions. If I open a traverse and just select some points in it and choose COGO, we'll do the same tool, right-of-way offsets, it thinks I'm working on those two selected points in the traverse view. Okay. As you can see, each of these views has its own menus. So I've got a COGO menu here. I've got a COGO menu in the drawing view. I can also right-click and come down and get a COGO menu on this context-sensitive menu. I can do the same thing in any of the views. I can right-click and go choose my COGO tool that way. Let's go to the Points Manager now. So I could go to the points manager and choose COGO Translate. It thinks I want to work on one selected item in the points manager. Well, no, I want to translate a bunch of selected points. All right, I just select those points and choose my COGO tool. In addition, I could right-click, go to COGO, and choose the appropriate COGO tool. Now notice that this list of COGO tools is significantly shorter here than the list we had in the Traverse view. The Traverse view gives you access to all of the COGO tools. The Points Manager does not, because I'm not going to do a right-of-way offset for something that I don't have a Traverse for, and I'm not dealing with Traverses here in the Points Manager. If I go back to the Traverses Manager, I could go to a COGO menu, I could right-click and go to COGO, and now I'll have right-of-way offsets available because I have Traverses available to work on. Let's go back to the Points Manager now. I just really want you to understand what is available to you from where. Let's go back to the Points Manager. I'm just going to select point 18, and I'm going to use a control click to select point 22, non-consecutive points. If you're not familiar with this, I think most of you are. A shift click will select contiguous points or contiguous objects in Windows. A control click will select or deselect non-contiguous points. So I've selected these 2 points. Now, if I right-click them, go to COGO, and choose Random Inverse, Traverse PC automatically assumes I want the random inverse between those 2 points. I could do the same thing in the Traverse view, select non-contiguous points, and choose COGO Random Inverse, and it is now giving me those 2 points. Once again, we've got options available, so I can say, oh, look, this is true bearing and ground distance. I really want grid, and I can tell it that I want grid. So Traverse PC is matching our Traverse because of the way it's set. I know I'm jumping around from view to view, but all of this stuff is so intertwined. I think it's important that we look at things from different angles at the same time. So let's take a look at the drawing view now. In the drawing view, once again, I can go to COGO and I will have specific options available because I'm in the drawing view. So some things will not be available here. I can right-click an object. So in this case, I have a line in the Lot 9 Traverse. I can right-click it. I could go to COGO, and I could say right-of-way offsets. So I want to do right-of-way offsets on that Traverse Lot 9. I can do it here from the drawing view this way. Let's take a look at a couple of different things. We're going to look at translate versus move. I can right-click on this, and I can go to COGO, COGO, and say translate, and Traverse PC assumes the entire drawing. I could choose, once again, various things. I want that Traverse that I right-clicked on, and I can translate that entire Traverse. All right. Now, the other thing that I have the option to do, I can right-click this, and I can choose Modify Objects, Move. Traverse PC pops up a message and asks me, do I want to move that entire Traverse or not? If I say OK, it will let me graphically move that Traverse. If I cancel, it won't do anything. If I say OK, then my status bar down here is telling me left click a base point. And if I'm moving a traverse graphically, typically I want to do it precisely. All right, so left click a base point, and I can use snap. So I'm going to use a snap end by pressing E. The capital letter is the keyboard shortcut. All right, so E for end, and it tells me to left click an end. So I'll left click on that, and it snaps me to the end of that line. Now it tells me to left click an insert point. I can do various things. Notice that this is now attached to my cursor, so I could plunk it down here wherever I want, do it graphically, or I could say E again and get on this line, left click there, and now I've snapped that to that corner. All right, so that's a move. That is not a COGO tool. It is really a graphic move. I should be able to undo it using the drawing undo command. With the translate, let's go ahead and do the translate again. COGO Translate, I could say that I want that entire lot, and now I want to do the same move I did, only this is a translate. I want to go from that point right there to that point right there, and I can say compute, and I've just done the same thing I did with the move, except I don't undo it with the drawing view undo. I can undo it here with the undo button, and most of your COGO dialog boxes will be this way. When you first open them, you'll have to plug something in and compute, and then you'll have an undo available. In addition, you'll have a summary button available. This is how you can create a report of things you've done along the way. So I can hit this summary button, and I will get this report of what I just did with that lot traverse. All right, so I did a translate, grid bearing, grid distance in feet on the entire traverse lot 9 by existing points, what points, how far, all of this stuff, and then it gives me what it did with each individual point. So all of your COGO dialog boxes should give you these options, both the undo and the summary. Now, I look at this report, damn, that wasn't what I wanted to do. If I go back into translate, all right, and I'll just pick it up off the list up here, I still have an undo button available. Now, this is only one level of undo. All I can undo is the last thing I did. So if I've done this translate and then another translate, I cannot undo the prior one, just the last one. All right. Let's close this and let's take a look at the intersection tool. I'm just going to click on the intersection button up here on the main toolbar. And if you're not aware of it, once again, we can show options, change how we do this. If you're not aware of it, see these buttons that point to the right. All right, these are graphic pick buttons. So let's do a bearing intersection. So I want to graphically pick a point. So I click on this right arrow. Notice it's blue now. I'm just going to click on that line to get that point. All right. And I want to go on a bearing of this northwest. So I'm on the southeasterly end of this line. I want to go northwest, that northwest bearing without typing it in. And I want to intersect this line. Okay, so I'll select a line. click on this, and now it's calculated that, and I have one possible solution, and you can see this graphically. That's going to be out here somewhere. So what I do is I can give this a point label, or I could view it. So if I hit view here, it's showing me, here's my point, there's my bearing, there's the other point, there's that line, and here is where my point would be. All right, I'm going to come back here and turn that off. We're back to the drawing. There is in TPC Desktop 2019, this is a new feature in this 2019 version. So if you're not on 2019, you don't have this available. We now have the View Plus. If I click this plus sign, it shows me that view, but it shows it in relation to the rest of this drawing. All right, so that's what this View Plus button does. I'll go ahead and turn that off. I can give this point an existing point label, for example, 12. Oops, sorry. Point 123. Come on. Let's just do it that way. Hit tab, and Traverse PC says, hey, that point exists. What is it you're doing? Most common in this case is that we want to update that point, but I have other options. I want the next available unused point number. So I tell it that and say, okay, and it gives me 144. That's my next available point number. Now I can save that point. I'll say yes, and I can choose plot. Now what plot does is that it takes that point and it dumps it into a traverse. Until I hit plot, that point was not in any of my traverses. Let's see, where did it put that point plot traverse? Oh, here it is, right here. Sorry. So it dumped point 144 into my point plot traverse. All right. That point isn't in any of these other traverses yet until I manually go and put it in. All right. So just saving this point, it saves it to the point list, but that's all it does. It saves it to the point list, and until you put it in a traverse, it's not typically going to be available on your, or be viewable on your drawing. It has to be in a traverse to view it on your drawing. Once again, we've got a summary button. We can clear it, all of these things. Something that is not on our agenda, but it's something I really want to talk about here, because the intersect dialog box is an excellent one to talk about it on. Many of these COGO tools do multiple things. For example, here we go. The intersection dialog box can do bearing, distance, or bearing a distance to an existing line or curve, and all of those can be combined with offsets if you want. Okay, so it can do all of that. What did I do? I picked a point, did a bearing, and picked a line. So I did a bearing line intersection. I ignored everything else. Okay, and Traverse PC filled in some things as I did that, but I just ignored what I wasn't interested in. So let's say I want to do, rather than a bearing line intersection, I want to do a bearing distance. Well, I could come in here and plug in my distance. Let's go, let's say 300 feet. All right. Now I have two possible intersections, because that this amounts to a circle around point 4. Okay, a 300-foot radius circle around point 4. So there are two possible intersections based on the bearing. So which one do I want? Once again, I can view it. And just a note about this, this is using every drawing is created from a drawing template, including this one. If I want to see things differently on the COGO drawing template, I can just update my COGO DRT with whatever I choose. So I can take a look at this and I can say, oh, here's point 4, here's that point. Well, I want this point. All right. Once again, I could use the View Plus button. Let's turn off the view and hit View Plus. I want point INT2. It's out here. Point 144 is here. INT1 is actually down here. So the one I want is right here. Let's say 145. Hit Tab and plot that. Sorry, I need to save it. Save it. Yes. So the traverse view itself is the most powerful COGO tool we've got. Let's just take a look at some of the things we can do. For one thing, I rarely use a random inverse tool because I can do it in a traverse easily. I could go to my traverses manager and create a new traverse. And I'm just going to call this calcs. In this case, calcs. There we go. And let's choose deed with curves and how I want it displayed. I really don't. Well, yeah, let's go ahead and use property lines for now. And let's create a temporary drawing. All right. And say OK. So now I'm in a temporary drawing with my new traverse, and it's given me 0.8. That's the first point that first available point number. Let's recall 1. So I'm going to recall 0.1. So I don't want to be doing random inverses. Let's say 0.1, I've got measured distances to 0.1 as well as a record position. Well, I could recall 0.1 and then change this to side shot, and I did that with F10. If you're not familiar with that, check the Traverses Learning Guide. Shows you how to do that. And then I can recall whatever points I need to show where those points are and how far they are from 0.1. So I can just sit here and recall these points, or I could go to my points manager and select some points. All right. And then insert existing points of the 17 selected items in the points manager. Here's that what list again. Say OK. And now I have inserted them. I'll say OK, change all of these, change all of these to side shots and regenerate my drawing. And now I can see all of these points relative position. This is a lot easier than doing a whole bunch of random inverses. Okay. Now I can create a report this way. Okay, I want to do random inverses from another point. So I could come down to the bottom of the traverse view. Oh, I was thinking 8 was a recalled point, and I'm wrong about that. I'm going to change it to an occupied. Now I could do a bunch of inverses like this from point 8. Or recall a different point. I just renamed it. I don't know what points are available here. So you can do a bunch of random inverses. In addition, let's go ahead and give this a bearing. All right, so now I want to go into a curve, all right? And I just want a tangent curve and enter a radius and arc length. So I could come over here and just enter a radius, clockwise is positive, and 450 feet long. All right, so now I've got that 300-foot radius curve, 450 feet long. It's tangent to the prior course. You can see that because curves are, there are so many different ways to define a curve. You need three pieces. You need some sort of directional information. You need a length, and you need how much curve there is. Well, a horizontal curve dialog box, because there are so many different ways to define that, is automatically a very complex dialog box. In this case, because our traverse view is formatted for the data that we have available to us, we're able to just do it right in the traverse view. So if you're not aware of that, the traverse view format is your friend. You go in and format your traverse view for whatever data you need to enter. So if you need to enter some curves using radial bearings, you can do that. So you set it up for the data that you have available to you. The traverse view itself is your most powerful COGO tool. All right, and another resource for you, in case you're not aware of what I was just showing you, if you don't know what we were talking about there, down here in the Tasks Manager, right down here, the Traverses Learning Guide. This is one of the most important things you can do to learn how to be efficient with Traverse PC is to take a look at the Traverses Learning Guide. And apparently I've got slow downloads right now. In the Traverses Learning Guide, the very first chapter deals with traverse formats. This is the most important chapter in all of our learning guides, in my opinion. If you're not familiar with this, please, please, please go through this. It'll help you a lot. All right. You get down here into record data, field data. It'll show you how to change occupied, side shots, all that. And then there's a chapter on creating traverses. So this learning guide, very important. If you're not familiar with it, in my opinion, the most important learning guide we have, and this chapter is the most important chapter in all of our learning guides. So that about covers everything I wanted to talk about here today. So thank you for joining me for our using COGO web seminar, and I hope you have a great day. Thank you.